So I've got through Christmas and I got through New Year, and I started off the new year of 2024, obviously with my final week of being in the detox centre. And I was beginning to think, this is actually possible. I might actually make this, I might make this journey and I might find recovery as long as I keep working on myself. So I attended the groups, I attended the evening meetings that we were set to do. So that week was kind of just, I'd had some good triumphs, some great triumphs throughout Christmas and New Year. So I was kind of propelled into my recovery right at the right point. It was like a bit of a turbocharger. If I can do those big moments in the year, completely sober and without using any drugs whatsoever, then I've got a fair chance of finding some sort of recovery here. So I was due to go back down to the rehab on the 7th of January, which I did. They came and picked me up actually. I had to pay for that. They came and picked me up because I don't drive. And it was a 5.5 hour journey down there. I was checked back into the rehab. They done a urine test and they found benzos in my urine and said, "Oh, you've come up with benzos, but don't worry, it could take 4 weeks to come out of your system, so you're allowed in here with them as long as you clear after about 4 or 5 weeks." And I said, "Well, don't worry, I've got a prescription for benzodiazepine. I'm on 20 mil diazepine. I'm on 20 mil a day." And they kind of looked at me funny. And that was that. So I thought, that's cool. It was all with my tablets. It was all legit as far as I was concerned. And for the first time in years, and I mean maybe a decade, I actually unpacked all of my clothes into the rehab facility that night. I put all my trousers, my shirts, everything away, my jumpers, my pants, my socks. I put my toothbrush out. I set my stuff up in the shower. And I settled in because I thought that's it, I'm here to stay. Now, I spent the night there. It was a bit different because obviously I've been living in the detox facility for the last 4 weeks. So it was a new surrounding. I'm not always good with change. And, I understand that about myself and I accept that about myself now. So I actually slept okay. Woke up the next morning, we had breakfast in the dining hall. Got to speak to some of the lads. They remembered me being whisked off to the detox centre before. Some of them were a little bit tippy-toe around me because they thought that I'd used on the program, which I hadn't. I was literally just too sick because I was coming off the drugs, which is why I got sent to detox. Now, we started the first group in the morning, that morning, so it was probably the 8th of January, around about that time. And a staff member came in and said, "Chris, can I have a word?" And all the lads at the rehab were like, "Oh, not again. What have you done this time?" And I went out and the lady actually said, "Yeah, I'm afraid it is again." I was like, "No, I haven't done anything, I promise." She went, No, it's fine. She said, you've been to a detox facility and they've left you on benzodiazepine. So we're sending you back there. Now, I'm thinking in my head, what? I've got to go all the way back I said, when? They said, "This afternoon you're going back to Liverpool." So I've only just landed there yesterday after a 5.5 hour journey. Then they want to send me back up there today. A couple of years ago, or even a year before, or even a few months before this, I would have used that as an excuse to use. I would have said, "F this, F that, you don't know what you're doing, rah, 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 I'm not doing this." And I would have stormed out. I would have got some money somehow. I think I had a few quid in the bank by then through Christmas or whatever, maybe 50, £100. I could have gone and scored that day, but I didn't. I sat there and I said, "You know what?" They said, "How do you feel about it?" I said, "Life on life's terms." I'd already accepted that I was powerless to anything out of my control. And that if you were going to send me back to Liverpool, even though I had to sit in a van or a minibus for another 5.5 hours to go back to Liverpool to detox off of the benzos, then so be it. I'm not going to challenge that. If that's what it takes for me to finally get into this rehab, that I've got to go back to Liverpool for another week, then I will. And the guy turned up. He was a guy that I didn't particularly get on with from the detox centre. I believe he's since been sacked, actually. He was quite an interesting character. But that's a whole other story. I'm sure I'll do a video about it one day. So they've sent me back to the detox, and I had a phone call about half an hour before I got there from one of the guys that was there and said, "Chris, we've just heard a rumour from staff that you're coming back. Is it true?" I said, it is. And I could hear them all like, yeah, in the background, because obviously we'd spent Christmas, New Year together. We were a really close group. And I walked in the door, I was met with loads of hugs and like, how are you? I was like, literally saw you yesterday morning, but I'm all right, thank you. There was a couple of new faces there that were really nice, kind people, became friends with those as well. And getting off the benzos wasn't an issue because I'd never really used them before. I'd been prescribed them by the detox centre for whatever reason. They just gave us tablets and we took them trusting that they knew what they were doing. And they do. I mean, they changed my whole mindset to life on life's terms, and I accepted that I was back there for a week and I'd get it done. So that week went pretty good. It gave me another chance to get stuck into some more courses. It gave me another chance to focus, gave me another chance to learn from other people, to learn about myself, to learn through the counsellors there and the psychotherapists that were there, and my drug worker as well. So just got an extra, to me, it was like an extra week in recovery. Then the time came that I finally left the detox centre and I went back to the rehab for good. So this is the third time I've tried to get into the rehab facility now. And I was accepted there. I remember the staff member who was my key worker. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a great guy. We didn't really see eye to eye on a lot of things, but he taught me a lot of lessons, and that was his job. You know, he'd done a really good job of that. I really do respect the guy. If he is watching this, he'll know who he is. Because he had to search all my clothes 3 times, and he used to bring it up every 2 weeks. I searched your pants 3 times, you know. So I do find these little moments that I can look back on and I can smile about. So yeah, I've got into the rehab centre, and obviously I failed the benzo urine test again, but they knew that I wasn't taking them because I'd been detoxed off them. So that does take up to or over sometimes 4 weeks to get benzodiazepam out of your system. Now, I'd been clean off of illicit drugs by this point for over 5 weeks, so I was raring to go. And I was assigned a buddy at the rehab. He actually later, unfortunately, he relapsed, and he did come back in just as I was leaving the rehab, and he's doing really well. I'm in touch with him now. He's my original buddy from there. He's doing really well, which is great. And I got stuck into the rehab process. It was a question of getting up in the morning, which I was normally awake for anyway because my sleep wasn't that good. So aside from the night sleep that I'd had when I first got, I think it's because I was so tired from traveling, I was back to about 2, maybe 3 hours sleep a night. I don't know how, looking back, how I was functioning at all. I have no idea. But I managed to, I pushed through. Life on life's terms suggested that if I'm not sleeping, there's no point in just lying in your bed. If you're not going to go to sleep, go and do something productive. So I'd go for a little walk around the back of the building. It's a big old manor house. It was a beautiful place. Used to be a convent for some time as well. And I'm Catholic. It was a very spiritual place for me. It was a very, very peaceful place to be, the building. And I lived there for 24 weeks. I got to know the staff really well. I became somewhat, over the course of the next few months, almost a peer mentor. I had a lot of the lads coming to me and asking me questions because I studied and I tried. I asked questions if I didn't know. I got stuck into the program. I went out in the evenings. At that particular rehab, you do 4 weeks where they take you to a shop on a Saturday for about half an hour for the first 4 weeks. Then after 4 weeks, you're allowed out on your own for 4 hours on a Saturday. Then another 4 weeks, you're allowed out for 8 hours. It's really well structured into community and resettlement, which is what people need, because when they come out of prison, I often find, or certainly for me, I was let go out of prison, told to go to probation. They tell me where I lived. I got to probation, and probation said, we've got nowhere for you to stay, you're homeless. Now the rehab facility, they ease you back into the public. You can go out with your peers. So I went out with my buddy on my first 4 hours out, which was suggested. I didn't really feel it necessary, but they suggested to do it, so I did it. I was literally taking any advice and any suggestions that I could get from anyone that seemed to have a good recovery, anyone that was a staff member who was knowledgeable about what I was doing and my plight, as it were, in the past. Anyone that had been through it themselves, I would listen to these people. I was assigned a counsellor who I got a lot out of. We didn't get on well as a counsellor-patient relationship. I think it was too early in my journey for me to fully open up to him about some of the past traumas that I've been through. So the head counsellor actually approached me a few months into that rehab journey and asked if he could be my counsellor, which I'd kind of put a line out for him before, like a fishing line, in the hope that he would, because he'd been through addiction himself. He'd been through a pretty harsh heroin addiction in his younger days and I think he was over 40 years clean, which to me is, you know, I can learn from you. You've spent 40 years not taking drugs after decades of taking drugs. So you have something to teach me. and you have something that I want, and that's sobriety and long-term sobriety. So I end up building a really good relationship with him. He's an amazing, I'd love to say his name just to say thank you to him. And if you are watching this, you know who you are. Thank you so much for all the work that you did with me. I don't think I could have found the recovery without the trust that I had in you that I've got now. So thank you. But yeah, it was a magical place. They had a great system, a great structure, groups in the morning. We had lunch around, I don't know, 12, half 12. After being there for a few months, I eventually started working in the kitchen, and I used to love that. I'd worked in a rehab kitchen before, but was not really working in it. It was more, I was the only one that could cook pasta and chicken, so I had to cook for 12 people every lunchtime and every dinner. And I just put cans of soup and like kidney beans in it for different cans of soup for a different flavour, and it seemed to be all right, grated cheese if we had it on top. But this was more proper, wholesome, good quality food. They have a chef there. In fact, I think they have 2 chefs there now, who do a fantastic job feeding the lads. And the jobs come up for the lads in that particular rehab. They kind of rotate on an 8 to 12 week basis. So I was asked by my friend Kev if I would take the job. So he'd been working in the kitchen with somebody else, the other person left. So Kev then needed somebody to help him in the kitchen, and he asked me, and I bit his hand off because I'd been doing a lot of outside work with my back and my leg. It was causing me a lot of troubles. Now, so they had, like, the outside work was allotment tending. They have a big grounds there, so it was like groundskeeping, general maintenance on the buildings, etc. And they get the lads to do that. Not one, it saves them money because they're a charitable rehab. And 2, it gets people back in the mode of working. Some people have never worked, I haven't worked for years and years on end. And it just gets that being outside, being in the fresh air, that kind of camaraderie amongst the group. You all work together. It doesn't always work, and I did dig my heels in quite a bit to start. I'm not working for free. I used to run businesses, and I had to kind of accept that, okay, I'll do this if I have to. And it was really good for me. I did kind of look forward to it. I did, me being me, give the staff a lot of cheek and that though, but that's kind of my personality. That's generally, if I'm happy, I'll be giving you cheek and I'll be joking around. So I know a lot of them frowned upon it, but that's who I am. So yeah, I got the job in the kitchen with Kev. Me and Kev became really good friends. He's a fellow Celtic supporter as I am. Not that I really watch football much, so we used to watch the Celtic games every Sunday. Kev was actually the guy that encouraged me to do these videos and encouraged me to do something with my poetry. Unfortunately, Kev passed away last year, and I do miss him. He was a very dear friend of mine, and he's not forgotten, which is why I mentioned him on here. I do miss that guy. We were really close. He came out for me on my birthday. He was a very wise man. Unfortunately, he had a lot of demons from the past that he couldn't deal with, and that is part of recovery. I've had to get used to losing a lot of people that I know, especially when you go into a rehab setting. The longer you're in addiction and recovery, the more people around you will die, because a lot of people don't make it through. And I intend to change that, which again, why I do these videos, to share my story, to show it's possible. I'm a living example that you can find recovery from drug addiction, alcoholism, a life of crime. I've done the lot, homelessness. I now have a lovely place to stay in. I haven't used for 14 months and 28 days. I have to think about it now because I don't really count the days much. But life's amazing for me now. I'm happy I have a roof and I have food, and that to me is an amazing life, and that's all I need. So I am really happy. I'm trying to raise awareness to people that have never been through addiction or don't know about addiction. Raise awareness on the subject and hopefully get some more treatment centres or funding for treatment centres across the country. I do have a mission to start a dry house in the next few years, hopefully around this area where I am in Reading. But we'll see. Once I've got the finances together, I will be working on that project. But for now, it's a schools project and spreading the messages into schools and prisons. So thank you for watching. That's more or less the end of this series of videos, week by week, through my detox and into my recovery at the rehab. I've got some interesting videos coming up soon. We've got some podcasts coming out soon that I'm going to be doing with some other guys. I've got some brilliant interviews booked in for this year, the next coming Coming few months, it's going to be me and another guy or two sitting here talking about different types of drugs. I've got some guys that were hooked on ketamine. I've got a guy that was hooked on weed and alcohol at the same time, a guy that was on cocaine, another guy that was on crack and heroin like me, another one which was pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm going to get different people in, talk about different experiences. Thank you all for watching, and please do like, comment and share my videos, but most of all, please subscribe to my channel. Show me your support. I know you're there watching. Thank you very much.